All right, let's talk about how we actually see the world. And I don't just mean with our eyes, I mean with our minds. Just picture this for a second. You're in the driver's seat, looking down a long, straight road. You see those two painted lines stretching out, right? And they seem to race toward each other until they collapse into this tiny little speck way out on the horizon. Well, that simple image, that road, holds a massive secret about how we build our reality, and, more importantly, how that reality can get twisted.
Where are we going? It's a question as old as time. But think about it. Our ability to even ask that question, to even imagine a destination and a way to get there, it completely depends on the world looking stable, looking like it makes sense. It relies on that road following a predictable set of rules. When it does, we feel grounded, we feel calm. But what happens when those rules start to bend and break?
So, here's our roadmap for today. First, we're going to look at that simple rule on the road that makes us feel so grounded. Then we'll get into the wild way our brain literally builds a 3D world from flat, conflicting images. From there, we'll turn inward to our own personal dashboards, expose the hidden code that shapes our worldview, and finally, figure out how we can navigate the real world without getting trapped by our own programming.
Okay, let's start with that little speck on the horizon, the spot where those parallel lines look like they're gonna kiss. It's called the vanishing point. And understanding why this simple illusion is so deeply psychologically comforting, well, that's our first big step.
You know, the vanishing point isn't a physical place you can ever drive to. It's not an object. Think of it more like a rule, a law of physics that's been stamped right onto the scene. It's the signature that infinity leaves on a finite surface. Renaissance artists totally figured this out. It was their secret weapon. They learned that if you draw all your lines converging on that one point, a flat canvas suddenly feels like a deep, real world you could step right into.
And this is where it gets really fascinating. This visual trick, this rule of perspective, it's directly wired into our mental stability. Psychologists call it reality testing. When the world obeys the rules, when those lines on the road meet exactly where they should, it's like a little check mark for our brain. It confirms that what we're seeing is tracking a real, external, shared world. But you know that feeling when you see a picture where the horizon is crooked? That deep sense of unease, maybe even a little bit of nausea? That's your body registering that the rules are failing, that something is fundamentally off.
Okay, so a stable world needs rules. Got it. But what about a deep world? A world with 3 dimensions. Let's dig into how our sense of depth is built. Because here's the thing. Depth isn't something we just see. It's something our brain actively, brilliantly creates from a constant, managed conflict.
Any surface, like your screen right now, only has width and height. So where does depth come from? It's an illusion. Your brain is getting 2 slightly different, totally flat images, one from your left eye, one from your right. They're incompatible. And your brain, like a genius artist, holds these 2 conflicting views in a perfect, controlled tension. And from that very difference, it constructs the 3rd dimension. Depth isn't a thing in the world. It's a relationship your mind creates.
Come on, let's try it right now. Hold your thumb out at arm's length. Okay, now close your left eye and just look at your thumb with your right. Now switch. Close your right eye and look with your left. See that? See how your thumb just jumped against the background? That little leap is called parallax, and that is the engine of depth perception firing away every single second you're awake.
So here's the kicker. Our rich, immersive 3D world is built not on perfect agreement, but on a perfectly tuned, totally manageable disagreement. It's incredible. If both of your eyes saw the exact same thing, the world would just flatten out into a boring photograph. But if they disagreed too much, the whole scene would just tear apart into a chaotic mess. Our entire perception of depth lives right there, in that beautiful sweet spot of controlled conflict. Now that we've got a handle on how our vision constructs this stable 3D world, we're going to make a hard pivot from optics to psychology. Let's get back in the driver's seat. Only this time, I want you to think of that car not just as a way to get around, but as a perfect metaphor for your own unique, subjective experience of the world. Think about your car's dashboard. It's constantly feeding you data, right? Your speed, how much gas you have left, your ETA, maybe a little warning light. This is a dead-on analogy for our own inner world. Our beliefs, our moods, our biases, our hopes. These are our personal metrics, the internal readouts we use to navigate life and check our progress. And here's where the danger creeps in. The problem starts when we forget that the dashboard is just a tool, and we start mistaking it for the road itself. When our internal feelings, our personal beliefs, stop being a guide and become the absolute truth.
the vanishing point on the horizon, stops being a simple orientation tool and starts feeling like our personal guaranteed destiny. The windshield becomes a shrine, and the dashboard becomes a doctrine.
The psychological result of this is profound. If my dashboard is the only truth, then any other car on the road with a different speed or a different destination isn't just on another journey, they become a threat to my journey. Every car that isn't following my exact path starts to feel hostile, intolerable. This is the absolute core of paranoia, the feeling that the world's very geometry is aimed right at you personally.
Okay, so let's pop the hood and dive a little deeper into the code that's running all of this. It turns out there's a technical concept from computer vision that perfectly, and I mean perfectly, captures the difference between the raw, messy reality of the road and that polished, personal view we see on our dashboard.
Now stay with me, because this gets a little technical, but the payoff is massive. In computer vision, they make this key distinction. First, there's something called the fundamental matrix, or F. Think of this as the raw, objective, unchangeable geometry of the road itself. It just is. Then you have the essential matrix, or E. This is the view you get after you've factored in your own unique settings, your camera lens, your focus, your angle. The essential matrix isn't the road itself, it's your personal calibrated pose, your specific point of view on that road.
And look at this. This beautiful, elegant equation shows you exactly how they're connected. To get from the fundamental reality, F, to your essential pose, E, you have to multiply it by K, your specific personal calibration. The source material calls this your special K. What this formula proves, in no uncertain terms, is that your unique perspective, your personal settings, doesn't just observe reality, it actively constructs the view that you see.
Now, when we get way too attached to our special K, to our own calibrated worldview, this really strange thing happens. We master the art of looking critical without actually risking anything. The source calls this hippocritique. It's when we spend all our time polishing our dashboard until it shines, using a critical tone so we can avoid making a real decision that might actually change our direction. You see this everywhere, like a kind of psychology that labels any car not on its preferred route as pathological, or the whole self-help world, which offers endless hacks to optimize your dashboard performance, but will never ever tell you to just take a different road. It's a way of turning real descent into a safe, curated mood, like a playlist, to protect our cherished view from any real challenge.
So, if making our dashboard the absolute truth is the problem, then what in the world is the solution? Well, it's not about smashing the dashboard or pretending we don't have a point of view. That's impossible. It's about learning to drive with a crystal clear understanding of what our instruments are for and, more importantly, what they are not.
The psychoanalytic solution has this great name, traversing the fantasy. Now, this doesn't mean escaping the car and running into the woods. It means realizing that the perfect, shiny destination you see on your screen isn't a real place. It's an illusion, a staging effect created by the angle of your windshield. You let the promise of that final, perfect answer just dissolve, but you keep your hands on the steering wheel. You learn to work with the very mechanism that created the illusion in the first place.
And this is the most important point. The true ground of reality isn't some hidden essence deep inside you. It's an act. It's what the source calls a cut in the action, a moment of friction, a pothole in the road, something that forces you to acknowledge the difference between your dashboard and the road. That's what restores reality testing. It's an event that smacks you with the reminder that your personal readouts do not control the world.
So let's bring it all home with a few key rules for the road. 1. Recognize that every time you think you see some deep essence in the world, you are actually just warping the field with your own perspective. 2. Get in the habit of looking for the special K, the hidden assumptions and calibrations that you've smuggled into your own claims about the world. 3. Embrace the cut, that moment of friction that restores the vital, healthy gap between your dashboard and the road. And finally, number 4. Keep your frame of reference translatable. You don't have to agree with every other driver, but you have to keep the lines of communication open. Ultimately, the goal here is to use your perspective, your calibration, as a tool for navigation, not as a shrine to be worshipped. It's the huge difference between having a map and believing that you are the territory. So the question I want to leave you with is this: knowing that your perspective is just one tool, one possible calibration among billions, how will you choose to recalibrate for the road ahead?